Okay, so the first slide is the forms, right? We have two forms, and I know that on the drive, I have the wrong form in there. They want us to use the Keller Williams form and not the Florida Realtors form. Now, when we go into DocuSign, there's two ways of seeing forms. In DocuSign, when you go to add forms, you go to DocuSign forms. We have the FAR, Florida Association of Realtor Library, and then we
Yeah.
have the Keller Williams 138 library. This is where we're looking for our EBBA is in this one. So if you go in, you type in exclusive, you'll see them all pop up right here.
And we want the TN.
Yeah, the transition to transaction broker. Um, and then so Keller Williams 138, those are all FAR bar forms. And by
Okay.
say FAR bar, it's FAR, the Florida Association of Realtors bar. Um, it's all those forms except they're revamped with our logo and some additional verbiage that our lawyers have approved.
Okay.
So that's why we do that. And I'll go into why on the next slide. There's on the incorrect form a dispute resolution, and it's different than the one that Williams wants us to partake in. So we're going to use the Keller Williams verbiage by using that form instead of the dispute resolution on the FAR bar form. Okay, so compensation. We don't like blank spaces, so please put not available or not applicable in these blank spaces here.
Okay.
It should look closer like this.
Okay. Yeah, I did that and I was like,
Mhm.
this seems like overdone, but I'm gonna do it because I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah,
Cool. Cool.
overdone for sure. And you might get pushback on it. If you don't do it, you might get pushback, you might not.
Yeah.
However, it's the buyer or the seller is not going to say, "Oh, thank you for," or get mad at you because you're leaving no blank spaces. They're going to be like,
Right.
"Okay, great. Now I know exactly what I'm looking at, 3%." So I did not make the announcement in the assignment that I wanted everybody to use the as-is residential contract for sale and purchase. Instead, I just said, "Hey, write an offer." So some people wrote their offer on the residential contract for sale and purchase, which is fine. It's just not the one that we see requested by most agents in the market. Most agents are going to say, "No, please put this on the as-is residential contract for sale and purpose." So even though you can still use the residential contract, most agents are not trained on it. They don't know how to use it, and so they're going to ask you to use the as is. But there's no bonus points or I'm not like mad at anybody for using the wrong form. It's fine. Personal property. As you can see here, all of these things are boilerplate in the contract. It states that we get the refrigerators, the dishwasher, the disposals, and the ceiling fans, and all those things.
Right.
However, we still like to fill in right here the different things that need to be added. So as you can see, whoever did this put not applicable, but there was a bunch of different things written down on the MLS. So we like to copy and paste that into that spot right there.
Okay.
As far as, and I'm really just pointing out all the things that I noticed in the offers that were submitted to me that were wrong. The additional
So,
terms here, it says see appraisal contingency addenda. We don't need to take a look at the appraisal contingency addenda because it's already baked into the contract. So as long as you check the appraisal box and you attach the addenda, you don't need to tell them to refer to another part of the contract because it's not additional, it's just a reminder. And then seller agrees to pay 3% of the purchase price for the buyer agent compensation. We have a buyer agent compensation form that goes on. We are not a part of the contract, so we do not put anything involved with our commission into the contract. And I did want to show you that too as well on the as is. And there's a bunch of forms that agents need to be aware of when they're doing these contracts. So right here, as long as you check this appraisal contingency box,
Mhm.
and you submit the appraisal contingency document, then you don't need to put that down here. Also,
Great.
right here, if you see seller's agreement with respect to buyer's broker compensation, that's
Oh,
a form that
yeah.
basically says that the buyer and the seller agrees to pay the buyer broker compensation. And then on that form, it says within 3 days, the brokerage and the seller brokerage will submit a agreement to compensation form. So we'll
Now,
take a look at that sheet.
all of those addendas, those all
Mhm.
have a separate rider or contract form that'll go with the contract.
Correct. And if you look here in the DocuSign forms, if you go to FAR and you type in, let's say we're looking for the GG form, we type in GG, there it is. Right. So on that contract and that addendum box, well, all those boxes are at, they're each labeled A through GG.
Oh,
Hmm. So let's click on this, take a look at that, add that to this, and then
that makes it that makes it pretty
it's a lot easier to
easy.
find. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to find that way.
yeah.
So this says this contract is contingent upon the seller's broker and the buyer's broker, or the seller and buyer's broker executing a compensation agreement with terms acceptable to the buyer within blank days. If left blank, then 3 days after the effective date. If the compensation agreement described herein is not executed and delivered within the time period, then buyer may, within 3 days thereafter, deliver written notice to the seller terminating this contract, in which event the deposit shall be returned to the buyer, thereby releasing buyer and seller from all further obligations under this contract. If buyer fails to timely deliver said written notice to seller, this contingency shall have no further force or effect. So you have to, you have 3 days from the time period, and then after 3 days, so that's where I was wrong. You can't go all the way to the closing table. It's 3 days after the effective date. If
Three
we
days
don't have
after
that,
this
yeah,
contract is signed.
yeah, 3 days after this contract is
Okay,
signed.
wow.
If we do not receive the compensation agreement within 3 days after that, then we can cancel within those following 3 days. After those following 3 days, if we go past that without getting the agreement, then there is no out. Um, this does not provide an out any further. Does that make sense?
For the buyer?
Yes. So if after the 3 days from effective date, we
Yeah.
don't receive the agreement, the buyer has an additional 3 days to deliver written notice to the seller stating that they want out of
Oh,
the contract.
got
If
it.
they don't do it within those 3 days,
Yeah.
then this contingency has no further effect. So the
Right.
contingency is wiped after the ensuing 3 days.
So you have a 3-day window of time to
Hmm.
make sure that you're getting compensated, or else you basically just forfeit your compensation.
In a sense, in the EBBA, the buyer, it says that the buyer pays the compensation if the seller's not paying the compensation.
Right.
Hmm. So we want to make sure that within 3 days, within the first 3 days, that we're getting our compensation agreement signed by the other side. There shouldn't be any holdup. It should be pretty simple. And if they are giving you holdup, then that's cause for concern, because if they're not answering that, what other questions are they not going to answer when it
Right.
comes time to execute on the contract? Okay, so back to the slides. And that's why we check the GG agreement with respect to buyer's broker compensation and not the FF credit related to buyer's broker compensation. There is a difference between getting a credit related to the compensation of the broker versus getting an agreement for compensation from the seller. The FF form is if you're getting a credit back on the contract. So for example, in a cash deal, there are no credits What are we like? Why would you get a credit back when you could just not pay me? Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah.
So we use the GG, we use the FF if the seller was going to give us 1% compensation and we wanted to negotiate any more compensation, it would be a credit related to buyer's broker compensation. So we could take a look at that form too. Um,
Like 1% from the buyer
yeah, it's
and
I haven't
then
seen that. These are new forms, so I haven't used the FF form before. Um, it's entirely new to me. So let's take a look at that one. But I haven't seen that on any contracts, any offers. So we're going to take a look. Buyer has entered into a separate brokerage agreement as may be amended, which is not incorporated herein by this reference with the brokerage. At closing, seller agrees to credit buyer the sum described below, which for disclosure purposes only the parties agree is related to buyer's obligation under the buyer brokerage agreement to pay all or a portion of buyer broker's compensation. In the event the credit described above exceeds the amount allowed by buyer's lender for such contributions, then the extent permitted by buyer's lender, no boxes checked, then the balance of the credit will be paid by seller directly to buyer broker. The balance of the credit will be paid by seller directly to the buyer broker, or the credit will be reduced to the maximum amount allowed by buyer's lender. This is very, very different. In the event the credit described above exceeds the limit allowed by the buyer brokerage agreement, then the credit will be adjusted to the amount allowed under the buyer brokerage agreement. This rider shall not modify the buyer brokerage agreement or any other compensation agreement made between seller, buyer broker, seller broker, and or buyer broker. Nothing in this rider requires the buyer or buyer's broker to provide a copy of the buyer brokerage agreement to the seller or the seller broker.
okay.
Okay, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I would still get some more clarification on this before using this personally.
Yeah.
Um, but it makes sense enough that if I did need to get a credit, instead of just doing the GG form, that I would use this. All right, let's get to back to the slides. So that's the difference between those. All right, the title company. This is how we want the title company to look. We want to make sure that the title company's name is here, not just the
The name of the agent.
agent name. Yeah, we also want the title company name up there too. Um, right here, we don't add down payment to the contract. The down payment is already implied here at financing. So financing is the only thing that we're looking at. You could put a dollar amount or you can put the percentage and the balance from the purchase price minus the escrow deposit and the financing equals line E. All right. So here someone put the financing window should be the application to make financing within 2 days. If left blank, it's 5. Leaving it blank is totally acceptable, or putting 5 there is acceptable. 5 days is fine. We don't need to shorten our buyer's time window on making an application. No seller's ever negotiating against that piece right there. That's usually something that's just fine to go.
Yeah. Why?
Awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to rush the buyer on getting financing.
Mm-mm. No, then, and most of the times they already have applied or they're applying that day.
I
But
mean, is that just the
yeah,
pre-approval?
it's 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 to get with the lender and fill out the application to get
Okay.
your to get the loan for that property. So it's not necessarily the pre-approval. Everybody needs to be pre-approved really to take a look at properties or people require that. But this is to start the application for this particular loan. Um, and then here it says seller shall designate closing agent and pay the owner's policy and charges. This is what we see most often here in Pinellas County. In some counties, we see buyer shall designate closing agent. Or in Miami-Dade, we see that a lot where that box is checked. Miami is a very different set of policies that they use when it comes to title, and it changes county to county, kind of changes which one of these top two boxes you use, but all of them in Miami pretty much use this one. If you ever get a contract or an offer that's coming in on a listing that you have that is checked box two or box three, please let me know.
Okay.
Additionally, if a box is not checked, then the blank spaces do not need to be filled in with anything, or you could put NA. So here they put 150, but we're not working with the Miami-Dade area, so we're just going to leave that blank. Same thing goes for title, evidence, and insurance. We don't need to reduce our timelines here. This one is okay if left at 15. Um, the flood zone as well. Like we don't need to reduce that timeline on our end. Um, in fact, if we can leave the timelines as they are typically in the contract, it's better for the buyer, and we represent the buyer. In fact, extending these timelines is more beneficial for the buyer sometimes, depending on what they have going on in their world or what's going on with the property. We do want to keep in mind that longer timelines do mean that there could be issues like time is the killer of all deals, as my friend says. And the longer that you have the contract going for, the more opportunity there is for it to go wrong. It's just common sense. If you do like a 60-day close, well, that's an
Oh, I
additional
got all
30
this
days.
time.
Yeah, there's additional 30 days for anything to go wrong, including the buyer getting into a car accident or anything major. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that our timelines are narrow, but we don't want to do that at the detriment of our client. And so moving forward, that was it on the contracts as far as what I saw that was of particular concern. Mostly everything else was done very well. Let's get to, I want to show you guys. We're going to go over the contract here, and you guys can stop me at any time if you have any questions about the contract. I'd be more than happy to answer those. But we're going to go over and do a quick summary of them all so you can kind of see what's going on. So at the top here, you want to put the seller's name, and to find the seller's name, you have to go to the MLS. And we're going to load that up too because people were having problems with that. So you go to MLS and you log in. See address here. Do you remember the address to the property? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I know where it's at. We'll find it on the map.
Yeah, the MLS is taking it's been some trial and error. I was playing with it yesterday, looking up some open houses for this weekend. But I'm working it. I'm figuring it out.
It takes time to get your hands and really figure out how to wield it. But
But
once you do it, it's really easy, and it's there's so many things that start unlocking. You're like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. Yeah, the MLS is pretty crazy like that.
yeah.
So here on this sheet, they have the names of the owners right here. Sometimes they'll say owner of record, and so you have to go and you have to click on the tax ID, and this will take you to Realist, and this will give you the name of the people who own the property eventually.
Is that a better place to like check anyways, just to be sure you've got the right names? Like,
Correct, because you want to make sure you want to trust but verify. So right here it has two names, Kenneth K. Mahoney and Olivia J. Horn, but here it has three, Jeanette and Stephen Mahoney and Olivia J. Horn. But no, Olivia is not. Olivia is an owner, and so is Jeanette and Stephen. So here it has three owners.
Yeah,
Here it has
two.
two. So why? I don't know, but we want to go with what's on the title, and that's where we find this here. And you see right here it says more.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a hidden one right there. See that?
Ah,
So maybe
ah,
the person that was putting the listing together just slapped these two on there, came here, slapped them on there, and put it out there. And the listing agent didn't check or didn't see it. That's a possibility that that's the case. But here it says more, and then there's a third person right there. So we do have three owners, and we're going to need and require three names on the contract. So some of the guys and gals in the program only put the two names, some put three. So we just need to make sure that we're checking this and getting all the way into this is like the final say right here, this page. This page is kind of just taking data from the property appraiser's website and making it presentable. And then this is the owner, the agent taking information and making it presentable in the MLS.
right.
So you got to do your due diligence there. And if something happens where we get a contract under contract and we put it to compliance, and compliance is like, wait, hold on, you guys, there's something missing here. So both sides of the transaction should have compliance departments making sure that we are on the up and up on everything. So just because something's missing, it's not the end of the world. It's nothing crazy. It's just a clerical error, and we have to go and fix it. All right, so that's how you find that. Now getting back to the as is contract. Put the buyer's name and then you put the property address and you don't forget to put the county. Some of you guys forgot to put the county here. You have to put the county right there on line B. Property tax ID goes here and the legal description is here. Again, very easy to find on the MLS. It's usually right here, legal description. And then the tax ID number is right here. Now, again, you could always double check by clicking here, going to Realist, or going to here and getting that information as well. It's all on that page. Trust me, we're not going to scour the pages for that, but it's there.
Is there?
Um, and then we discussed the items have to be sometimes you have to take what's on the MLS and put it there. So these items that they are explaining that come with it, we want to double check. They said that that was going, so we want to make sure that that's in there. Now, if they are taking the washer and dryer with them and it's expressed in the contract, or if your sellers are taking the washer and dryer with them, you want to make sure that that is listed here. So things that are not included in the purchase price, these are not going with the purchase. They do not convey. Following items are excluded from the purchase, washer and dryer. All right. And so here we want to put the purchase price. The initial deposit to be held is the escrow. That's delivered within 3 days typically. You can put whatever you want here as long as both parties agree. And the reason why you might want to do 5 days is if someone is overseas. Say, hey, we're going to make this, but they live in Germany. There's time constraints, and we have to get it cleared through, a wire and all this other stuff, right? So we might have an extended escrow deposit date. The escrow agent name. A lot of times you'll see that at the bottom of the matrix, they'll have this filled out for the seller's closing agent. That's different than the escrow agent. However, if your buyer does not have their own escrow agent, you can use the title company that you're closing at. There should never really be a problem with using the title company that you're closing at because we trust them to close the deal. We should be able to trust them with holding the escrow. If your client has a lawyer that wants to hold the escrow, fine, let them hold it. That's what they want to do. It's their call as to who holds on to escrow. If they don't even know how that works or who they want to hold it with, I typically suggest that we hold it with the preferred closing agent. That way, there's one less wire that needs to happen.
Right.
And there is such thing as wire fraud. So the less wiring, the better.
True.
All right. So moving on. You don't have to worry about the fax number either. Just skip the fax. Additional deposit delivered to escrow agent within blank. Typically, we don't see this too often, but that's in the case, for example, you want to do something where you're going to make a deposit, escrow deposit of $3,000, and then after the inspections, you want to like seal the deal and say, hey,
Right.
we're going to put another $4,000 in escrow in after the inspections, and then we're hard escrow. So now your escrow jumps up, so you know we're serious. That's a tactic that we use sometimes when we want to make sure that people on the seller side know that the buyer is very serious about purchasing this property. And if we are allowed to get under contract with you after our inspections, we'll drop another $5,000 just to make sure you feel safe and secure. Financing here is where you put the amount of money that you are financing. If you are going to be putting 20% down on a purchase of the home, it would be 80% financing here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the purchase price and you're going to multiply that by zero point 0.8. And that is the number that you would put here. That's 80%, right? And
It does
then
say dollar amount or percentage.
or percentage. So you could put percentage there too. I like putting the dollar amount simply so that when I'm adding it all together and making sure that I'm balancing and
The
reconciling
numbers
it,
add up.
the numbers make sense. You
Yeah.
can, if you know how to use I hate saying if you know how to use a calculator, but some people have a harder time. It was like I learned this
Visualizing it.
later on. I'll say this, I learned later on that you could minus percentages on the calculator. So you could take 100,000 minus 20% plus $5,000 and get an actual number. Whereas before I was just like, now I have to go back and it was just a little bit more complicated. But now I know that I can do that.
I'm not that confident.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So like calculator, let's say 100,000 minus 20% equals, nope, see, it doesn't do that here. It just did 20,000. Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, it just made
Yeah.
it
Okay.
80,000. Okay, so it did it this way. And you
Oh,
got your
you just,
80,000.
yeah. Okay.
So it just converts that right there for you. So you can do it that way too, but I just prefer to put the numbers down.
Yeah.
When it comes to this line other, like let's say the buyer was going to do something, I've never seen anybody use the other line, but yeah, I don't even know what you would put there. If there's something else that they want to pay money for, then that's where they would put that money. Balance to close. And that's where you get the balance, right? So when you take the purchase price multiplied by the financing amount, then you minus the escrow and you minus the financing, it should get you the balance to close. So those three, the balance to close or the escrow amount, the financing, and the balance to close should equal up to the purchase price. And that's
That
how you
makes
check
sense.
yourself.
Yeah. Easy.
Okay. Time for acceptance, you put the date here, that the offer shall be accepted by this date. I typically will do 2 to 3 days, give them some time to think about it, mull it over. Some people are like, hey, this is a one-time offer. I'm giving it to you right now. You got until the end of the day to get this back to me. And that's how they like to put pressure on sellers to say, hey, this is a once in a lifetime deal. I'm moving on. It's up to you. I've only had that happen one time, and it was a very weird situation. Um, And then closing date, you want to put the closing date here. I like my closing dates on Wednesdays just because it gives enough time for wires to transfer. Whereas Fridays, if it's 11:30 close and the money hasn't transferred yet, then that money is not getting to the seller until Monday, and you're going the whole weekend wondering if you got a house, if the seller is going to get paid. It's a really messy situation. It always sucks when there's a Friday close and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, Extension of closing date, you would read this. This kind of allows you to have extensions and it kind of gives you how that works. If the event constituting a force majeure is like an act of God or tornadoes, hurricanes, things like that. Um, closing date is extended as provided in standard G. So you will get down to standard G and you'll see that. But reading the contract can sometimes take you from the top of the contract to the bottom, back to the middle, and you have to just take your time trying to understand what these things are and what it all means. Occupancy and possession. Um, this is pretty boilerplate. We don't make any changes to this. It's good to read it and understand it, but I'm not gonna read the entire contract to you.
Yeah.
But I would take time to read these, and if you have questions, write them down, and at the next contract or at the next Friday, we can go over it and discuss. Assignability, this is what I like to call the wholesalers section. The wholesaler loves to check this first box. And it says buyer may assign and thereby be released from any further liability under this contract. So by getting you under contract, I can then take this contract, sell it to somebody, and then remove myself from the contract and assign it to someone else. Now they're buying your house, and I just got paid a flat fee for finding the contract. That's where you see all these wholesalers going around online and making these videos, just getting people under contract and selling the contract. And I just made $30,000 on one deal. It's That's how they do it. Um, there's nothing against the law about it. However, as an agent, it's looked down upon to be a real estate agent and know how real estate works, just to sell contracts and take advantage of the public. You know,
Yeah.
you're essentially taking advantage of the public because you know how this works, and you are not I don't want to say ripping them off, but you are definitely not doing your ethical duty as a realtor. But that's a gray area. I don't know any realtors that do it, but I'm sure there are realtors that do. Financing. Um, This is a cash transaction with no financing contingency. You would check that if you're doing cash, or you would check this if you're using any kind of loan program. You want to make sure that it is filled out and that you are checking these boxes here. You have to check one of these, adjustable, fixed or adjustable. I usually do fixed or adjustable in case they decide to make a difference, if they decide to choose another option.
Right.
And then you can leave these blank because it has the template there, 30, here 5. Um, you don't have to put in the percentages. It's based on the prevailing rate, based on buyer's creditworthiness. If the buyer wants to make sure, like, I'm not paying anything over 6%, then you would put 6% there. But if you're a seller and you see something there like 5%, you might just scrap the whole entire deal right off the bat. You might say,
Right.
hey, listen, you're not going to get a 5%, so we're not going to do this little silly game of having a 5% rate here.
Yeah.
Um, so most of this is also boilerplate. Read it, understand it, try to digest it. If you're going to do an assumable mortgage, you click this box. If you're going to do purchase money note, that box. Those are creative financing options. You'll get to those as you get more skilled as a realtor. Costs will be paid by the seller. All these are kind of baked into the contract. When I'm doing a transaction coordinator, that's where I put this, 395 paid to transaction coordinator at close. Same thing with here if I'm on the buy side. I could also you could also put something else in there like whatever they're gonna pay for you, or something else like if they were gonna pay for a cleaning company to come in, buyer is going to pay for a cleaning company to clean the property before the property's closed. Seller agrees to that, all good, right?
Okay.
Title evidence and insurance, at least blank, is checked 5 days prior. Read this. This is all about the title company, and this explains how title works, this whole section. So, C all the way down to D is all title information. We did go over this. Who chooses the title agency pays the premiums, basically. Um, the survey, 5 days prior to closing date, buyer may, at buyer's expense, have a real property surveyed and certified by a surveyor. It's on the buyer to get the survey. Usually the lender will require it. But if you're buying it cash, then it's your deal. You have to go and get the survey, and this is your opportunity to do so. The home warranty, you would select whether the buyer's going to pay for the home warranty, the seller's going to pay for the home warranty, or there isn't one. And then I will typically put to be determined here,
Mm,
unless the buyer already has a home warranty company that they want to use. And they've already had the conversation, and then not to exceed, typically we'll see anything by 500 to 750. I usually put 500 here. And that is if the seller's going to pay, they pay no more than 500 for that home warranty. Special assessments. A special assessment is something like you live in an
sidewalks are
HOA.
getting added or,
Yeah, like you live in the HOA and they repaved the streets,
right,
or they added sidewalks. Now everybody in the community is paying a special assessment for those sidewalks. This one says that the seller pays the installments until the closing date, and then after the closing date, the buyer takes over. The second one says that the seller pays in full at the close the special assessment. For a buyer, option B obviously is better.
right.
For the
Yeah,
seller, option A is more fair to them. Sometimes if there is an assessment, you would want to go B and just say, hey, make the payment. They say, hey, we're not doing that. Then you could negotiate for A. In a multiple offer scenario, A will edge you out. You might not even get a negotiation. Somebody might say, we're going with another offer. We had a better offer. They don't have to tell you what was better about the offer. They just have to say we had a better one.
right.
So if you want your client to put the best foot forward, I would tell them to go with A. If you want them to say, hey, well, no, I'm not doing that. I want everything paid for, then go with B and see where the ball lands. Right? But it's a harder push for B. Disclosures, you have all these disclosures about mold and flood zones and everything, energy brochures, lead-based paint, all these different disclosures kind of explains what is going on with that. And you would want to make sure that you know what these things say and that your seller or buyer knows what these things say. And that's the one thing that's really screwy about residential real estate versus commercial real estate. In commercial real estate, it's more or less like, here is all of your options. I give you a contract. Go take it to your lawyer or go read it. In residential real estate, it's, hey, use DocuSign. They're just like click, 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 click.
Yeah,
And then we got a house. They never read it. So they don't know. But it's like, how do you not know? You signed it. Well, it's not my job to know this. It's like, it's your $100,000. It's your
right.
$500,000. So we want to make sure that we are that we're explaining to them as much as possible, but there's no way that anybody will sit down with you and have a 3 hour conversation about contracts. They're
But
not going to, they wouldn't
um,
even do this.
Christina Martinez, the lawyer that I follow,
Hmm.
she's actually in the middle of a lawsuit right now where the buyer got a DocuSign contract emailed to him from
Hmm.
his agent, and he thought he was just looking through it, but she said, admittedly, he had had a few drinks. It was the middle of the night. He pulls it up, starts clicking through it, and without realizing, had signed the documents.
Mm.
And he somehow had even managed to sign or initial for his wife.
Yeah, sounds like somebody's trying to get out of a contract. But, then again, it's one of those things to where you have to document what you're doing. So I have phone calls, I have text messages, I go back and forth as I send the DocuSign. That's why it's really important when we do those envelopes to enter in the information there when we're sending the envelope that says, hi, please review and sign this document for purchase of the property. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to explain how this works. I don't just send the document over
Right.
like leaving that blank. I say offer for purchase. You are about to purchase this home. Please review and read, and if it's all satisfactory, sign. Someone signs it and says, well, I didn't know, I just thought it was an email. They can't say that.
Yeah.
So I do make sure that, and I also think it's a courtesy so that they know what they're looking at when they get the email. They're not scared or there's no kind of like, what is this now? Nikki's sending me this crazy document now. I don't even know what it is. So I always, when I send a document for DocuSign, I always call just to make sure that I have that conversation too, like, hey, I'm sending this document over to you. I want you to take a look at it. There's some revisions that need to be made to the offer or I'm not just sending people things that they have to figure out on their own.
Yeah.
Trying to have a conversation with them before I send the document, and then once it's there, I make sure that they get it by text and all right, so this right here talks about the right to cancel. In the state of Florida, you have an inspection contingency, which means that during the time of the inspection, if something comes up and you would like to cancel your contract, you have within the 7 days or the allotted time frame that you agree upon to send in a release and cancellation for the property. So make sure that you read this. This is very thorough as to what you are able to do. So, for example, if you go under contract and you get an inspection and the inspector pries like a floorboard open or something or breaks something, that's part of the house, you don't have to pay for it if you're buying the house, right? You
Right.
have to pay for it though if you get out of the contract. And it states that there. If you do decide to relinquish yourself from the contract, it says repair to damage and restoration of the property resulting from inspection shall be provided to seller with paid receipts for work done. So you do have to and that's why inspectors don't like moving furniture. They don't like trying to pull open things that might be stuck. They'll just say, hey, this door is stuck.
Well, don't the inspect the one or two inspection companies that I've talked to, so that they are insured.
Hmm.
So if their agents are out doing an inspection and cause damage to the property, it's covered with their insurance.
Yeah, it is. It's still the buyer still has to make sure that it's done. It's
Right.
on the buyer to make sure it's done.
Got it.
So that's typically how that works. And, there's mediation, there's all types of stuff. After, like outside of the real estate purview, it becomes a legal issue. And we're not lawyers, so we're just, hey, you don't have to get a lawyer to go after this inspection company. I
Right.
don't handle cases. You know what I mean? So I'll talk to the inspection company. I'll tell them to get in touch with you and that they have to fix this. But I have no authority to go after them. I have no like I can't represent you in a legal matter.
Right.
Um, so walk through reinspection prior to the closing date. Usually on the day prior or on the closing date, you have time to walk through the property. So again, more things to read, more things to understand. The escrow agent and broker understand this, read that. Professional advice, broker liability. That's again, verify the proper square footage and everything. It's really on the buyer. It's more like, hey, make sure that you're verifying everything. A default, if the buyer fails, if the seller fails, this is where it explains that. Dispute resolution, if there is a dispute, this is how we go about it. Attorney's costs and fees, this is where that's laid out. Um, Title, these are like the standards. The title, evidence, restrictions, easements, and limitations, examination, survey, ingress and egress, lease information, liens, time. This one I like to kind of touch on because this is where people have a lot of questions. We'll just read this one for you. Time is of the essence in this contract. Calendar days, based on where the property is located, shall be used in computing time periods. So that means it's not business days. We're doing calendar days. Other than time for acceptance and effective date as set forth in paragraph 3, any time periods provided
Hey, Jocelyn.
other than time for acceptance and effective dates set forth in paragraph 3, any time periods provided for or dates specified in this contract, whether pre-printed, handwritten, typewritten, or inserted herein, which shall end or occur on a Saturday, Sunday, national legal public holiday as defined in 5 USC section 6103A, or a day on which a national legal public holiday is observed because it fell on a Saturday or Sunday, shall extend to the next calendar day, which is not a Saturday, Sunday, national legal public holiday, or a day on which a national legal public holiday is observed. So what that says is that if you have an inspection period that ends on Saturday, it carries over to Monday. If Monday happens to be Memorial Day, then your inspection is on Tuesday. So if you are um, the Friday before or whatever, and you want to have an 8-day inspection period, lands on that Saturday, and then it goes on until there is no more holidays during a regular um calendar day, non-weekend calendar day. So that's how that
What-
works.
Is that like, because I mean, inspectors, they don't generally do an inspection on like a Saturday or a holiday, do they?
Yeah, they'll do them whenever they can get them. They'll do them on
Oh,
Saturdays all the time. I've
all
had
right.
plenty of inspections on Saturdays. Like, that's the day a lot of buyers like have off work. So they're like, I want to go to the inspection. So let's do it on
Ah,
Saturday. So they'll do the
okay.
inspection on Saturday. You can do the inspection any day. So
All
just
right.
because you have that inspection period doesn't mean that that's the day that they have to do the inspection on. You can do the inspection on Monday. If the period ends on a Saturday, you have until that following Monday. Same thing with an escrow deposit. If your escrow deposit lands on a weekend, if your closing date lands on a weekend or a holiday, that's why we check the calendar in advance before we start sending out these offers, because sometimes people will book the book a closing on November 11th, and that's Veterans Day, and then all of a sudden you get like a week out, and you're like, "Oh, hey guys, just so you know, that's Veterans Day. You can't close that day."
Yeah.
Oh, so we have an extension. We have another day just added on to the contract. You got force majeure, you got conveyance, um, location, closing documents, more stuff to read, more understanding to understand. Access to property, risk of loss, 1031 exchange. So there's going to be a lot of things that you don't understand here, and we're not going to spend this whole day going over this stuff. Um,
They're going over it tonight in Ignite.
they're not going to go over everything. They're
Oh,
not going to
okay.
tell you what a 1031 exchange is. I'll tell you that. That's a whole class. So a lot of these things are whole classes, right?
Okay.
1031 exchange, for example, it's a very complicated procedure. This little paragraph does not even begin to explain what that is. You actually have to know how to how many days are in a 1031 exchange, and until you can find a subject property and all the math, and we're not allowed to just do a 1031 exchange without being a prepared agent, like somebody that is certified to do them. So you need to, some of these things are going to be classes all within themselves.
Got it.
For example, is for like people that are Canadians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a foreign real estate tax. Waiver of claims, reservations. So when we get down to 19 addenda, this is when we want to make sure that we have all of our addendas that are correlating with this property. If the house is pre-1978, then we have to make sure lead paint disclosure is added. And we find those documents in DocuSign and we attach them to this. If you are buying a house um, with a lender, like in this situation on a conventional loan, and you don't check this appraisal box, you don't have an appraisal contingency. You might have just accidentally forgot to add one.
Mm,
Now, if the house fails an appraisal, that's not grounds for you to get out of it, except that your lender will say that we can't afford to, we can't finance you. However, if the appraisal value is like $1,000 below, and the lender's like, yeah, sure, we're still going to finance you. Now your buyer's on the hook for 1,000, 2,000 bucks, right? Because they could have,
right.
they got their loan. They're able to get their loan, but now it's costing them more money. Um, And still, you want to make sure that too, because like if the property appraises for low and you wanted to appraise at that price point, now you don't have an out. By having the appraisal contingency there, if they had, for whatever reason, wanted to get out of the property, but it came back $1,000 under for whatever reason, they could say, okay, well, we don't even care if the seller comes down to match the price of the appraisal contingency. We went out of the deal, didn't appraise for what we wanted. So you want to make sure that you have that appraisal contingency there, just to protect your buyer. And then you can put other here if there's something on here that you like, there's more addendums than are listed here.
Right.
So you could put other and put the addendum here. We don't put anything related to our compensation. You don't need to put seller property disclosure. That's not an addendum. That's something that is, as we saw, already in the contract, and it's not really an addendum. People do put it there. Nobody really complains, but that's just for other things. And
Well, wouldn't
so,
that be GG?
what's that?
Wouldn't that just be the GG?
No, the seller's property disclosure is different. The seller's
Oh,
property disclosure is where, we go over all the line items that the seller has found out with the home that's messed up, or are there any egresses or ingresses? Has it ever flooded? Have you filed an assurance claim, any sinkhole remediation, stuff like that? And then additional terms. If we can put additional terms here, a lot of times we'll do on this part, um, like escalation addendums, or like we're going to do escalations. Or actually, we put the escalation addendum here. That would be one of these others, like an escalation addendum. But for here, we could do something in regards to paying over appraised value. Like if we see a property and everybody wants to buy it, and we know that there's 12 offers on there, we could say buyer is willing to pay $5,000 over the appraised value of the property. So if the property appraises at the price that they say, the seller is willing to contribute another $5,000 up to a certain price point, right? Or even if there's not a lot of people that want to buy this house, but you really want to get it, um, and the appraisal comes in $10,000 below, you could say buyer will pay up to $10,000 towards the appraisal as long as it does not exceed the appraisal, the purchase price. So if it comes in at 350, if we go under contract at 350, we can put that in there. And if it comes in at 340, we'll pay $10,000, meaning that the seller's like, cool, even if it does appraise low, we don't have to worry about that. That's a win. So sometimes that works. And then you have everybody sign. Right here, you put your the cooperating sales associate and the listing associate. If you're the buyer, this is where your name goes. If you're the listing agent, your name goes here. And then the brokerage companies go there. And that is the as is contract.
cool.
Do we have any questions about that? I know
I like
Jocelyn has some questions.
it.
You're muted. Sorry, Jocelyn, you got your mute on.
I'm dealing too. I'm sorry, Derek. Hi, how are you? I'm dealing too
Wonderful.
with the situation in Santo Domingo about the land that we have there because
Hmm.
we are like 20 heritage, and I was talking with the lawyer too. So
Hmm.
uh where because I just jumped in the thing. I couldn't
Yes.
do it before. But let's keep going. And then if I have a question, then I'm gonna let you know, okay?
Okay. Well, we kind of got near the end, so um, we kind of went over everything as far as what's submitted and how to submit. I did record it, so if you ever do want to go back and watch it again, you can. And then let's see, what's something that like I know in your particular situation, the EBBA and the documents that you're using, you're going to want to in DocuSign make sure that we're using the right documents to send. So, for example, if we're going to do an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, it'd be this one right here, consent to transition to transaction broker. This is the wrong one, actually. This is the one that they don't want us using
Yeah.
because of this. So, um, they want us using the Keller Williams forms as much as possible. So if you go to add and you go to DocuSign forms, right down here, you'll see KW138 and you'll type in exclusive and it'll bring up the forms. We want to use the TN form, add that into here.
Yeah.
And this is the form you want to fill out
Yeah.
with your buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And the form that you sent me the single agent consent to transition to transaction broker and transaction brokerage form, which is a different form, which we don't use unless we are sure that we are transitioning to
All
that.
right.
So in the forms here, you have broker relationship forms. So you have a no brokers relationship form, you have a single agent with consent to transition form, you have the single agent form, and then those are the different ones. So when we go under contract with someone, we're submitting an offer, we want to submit the single agent form along with that. So this form is just very simple. So since we were doing broker to broker on ours, like since it was Keller Williams, we'd be doing a transactional broker. But for most cases, we are just doing this one form. We fill this out. But since we were working with Jody on this one, it would be the transaction brokerage agreement, which is this form. So you did send the right form to me. So should be there.
Toma, mira, a ver qué es lo que él quiere. Ser seguro.
¿Y eso?
El seguro.
Seguro.
El seguro de la casa, papi. De aquí, el seguro de aquí.
Hello. Yes. ¿Cómo estamos? Yeah.
So it's this form. No, it's not this
Ready.
one. Sorry. That's
¿Cómo
the
estamos?
agreement. When you're signing the offer, when you're getting the offer signed, this form
Yeah.
accompanies that form. Single agent, transition to transaction broker, and then transaction broker. So this would accompany the form, the offer to the buyer. So the buyer would see this and they would sign this along with the other things. So I am going to show you a complete package here. Let's see who did a complete package. I believe Chris did. Okay, so this is Chris's package here.
Getting chilly again.
So once it loads up. So you started with the approval letter, made sure that you have your pre-approval included.
Mhm.
The wire fraud notice has to go along with it. So we need this signed by the buyer. This is the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, where this outlines the agreement between the buyer and the seller. Again, you'll notice that we use the one where it does not have the dispute resolution with the needs initials. So this is the Keller Williams one, which is the one that we want.
Mhm.
The comprehensive rider for the appraisal contingency was filled out correctly. This is we did not talk about this yet, but this is the estimated closing costs for the buyer. This one's a little bit difficult to fill out. especially since we don't know exactly what the estimated lender fees are or their loan origination fees. Some of those things we do not get from the lender until we go under contract. However, you can reach out to a lender and say, hey, could you send me like your loan estimator sheet for this property at this price point and see if they will do it for you. Some of them won't because they don't have to until they're under contract. And then once they're under contract, they'll send it to you when you request it. But if you're working with a lender that you know, like, and trust, then there should be no reason why they wouldn't do this for you. Additionally, you could always just ask for the average on Google in the state of Florida. So you can say, hey, in the state of Florida for a property like this, if you're using Google or if you're using ChatGPT, you can put in the price and ask for the estimation. Additionally, you want this to be sent with the offer. However, it doesn't go to the listing agent. This will go to your client. However, the lender typically sends the same thing to them, and you can get that from the lender and have the buyer sign it as well. I know that they encourage us to teach you to this model so that you know how everything breaks down and you're able to do the math. So basically, what we want to do now, we see things all over on this form. The total estimate required to close is going to be a smaller number than it's not going to
Yeah.
be everything. It's going to be all of this minus this plus all this. So that's really what it kind of looks like. Let's move on to the next. This is the affiliated business disclosure that we need to get signed by the buyer. Here is the buyer's disclosure. We need to get this signed by the buyer. The flood disclosure has to be signed by the buyer, and we all know where we can find that. And you can see also he did find the three sellers. So there was 3 sellers on this property, not just 2.
Mm-hmm.
The seller property disclosure needs to be filled out.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you need to put the buyer's initials on each of these so that they can initial and that they can sign.
Okay.
And then you have the as-is residential contract. Get this filled out. Again, we did go over this earlier, so please go back and check what we did there. And then this is the transaction broker disclosure. This is really all you need once you get under contract. This has to be signed when the offer is being submitted. A good way to make sure that you have a checklist is by logging into your command. Go to command. And let's just take a look at buyers. Look at this one and we go documents. And so here you can see what we need for a consultation is the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. And then once we're under contract, we need all of these things that are required to be found and filled out and signed by the buyer and then attached
Okay, perfect.
to command once it's all signed. And then you have it also conditional things like the HOA disclosure or the lead-based paint disclosure that you might need or you might not need. Appraisal contingency, all those boxes that you're checking, the addendums, they need to go here. Here you have your cooperating agency disclosure, pre-qual county tax records, your KW compensation agreement, estimated cost sheet. All of these things need to be entered into command. So these are all the documents that we need to get filled out. Additionally, in DocuSign, if you want additional checklists, you can go in here and on buy or resale, you'll see that there is a checklist somewhere.
Yeah.
Did I pass it? Oh, right here. So we add that and type in check. So here's the buyer checklist. And I encourage you to use this one too, just so that you have all of your T's crossed and your I's dotted. So we have our executed contract, check, pre-qual, we got that, pre-approval. We have our buyer relationship disclosure done. We did get our exclusive brokerage agreement, brokerage relationship disclosure. And you just keep on checking these off as you get these done while you're doing your files. And then eventually you're going to be so good at this, you can do it with your eyes closed. And this has information and on signature tips, how to manually add documents to your opportunity folder. So this gives you a little bit of a rundown on how to use command and make sure that your documents are getting added to command easily. For example, when it comes to power of attorney, you have to make sure that you add power of attorney to the end of the name, and then also the initials have to have POA at the end of the name. So it'd be MS POA for power of attorney. For LLCs, it would look like this. And then for trustees, they want TTE and they want trustee at the end. So
Yeah.
you might encounter that when you're working with somebody that has a trust or a company that's looking to buy or sell real estate. So there's that. And that is really how you submit an offer and how you get it done. When submitting the offer to the other side, I like to do a nice letter to the agent, kind of giving them a summary of what my offer is. So if I go to purchase. So I write something, hello, Sarah, thank you for reaching out. I'm happy to present this offer by Jason and Danny. Full price offer includes the kickout clause we spoke about. Once under contract, we will book the inspection and work to get past that contingency. The offer is financed by Austin Kennerly and will be available to answer your question. Feel free to call him. And here's his email address. Please let me know if there's anything I could do to provide clarity on this offer. I look forward with working with you on this transaction. And so I try to list some of the key features of the deal, try to have like a little conversation or not just make it like offer attached and send it off. I want to make sure that they read it and they see that I care that they take a look at my offer. It could be just the touch that they need to say, hey, this person communicates well and I like their offer, even though it's not as nice as the other ones. I think that I could work with this agent better. And they might explain that to their seller while they're talking. Hey, this agent, better offer, but I know just off of the communication that we had, he was very rude, very curt, and I didn't get much of a good vibe from him. However, Derek seemed very friendly, very nice, open, and we had a really great conversation about what they're trying to do with their property. And communication is key. So if you have clearer communication on what your buyer is trying to achieve, and you're not really putting them on Front Street, you're just, saying, hey, this is what the buyer wants to do, and, or do you have any questions that I can ask the buyer for you or for the seller, that type of thing. You can find yourself in a better negotiation piece. Of course, we don't want to give any details away from our buyers or our sellers that would put them at a disadvantage or that would play their hands. However, at the same time, just kind of sticking to the facts can make a difference in which agent that the listing agent wants to go with. And then I also include the pre-approval along with all the other documents. You can bundle your documents into one file or you can have multiple files sent over. That's your preference. What we don't do is we don't send the documents to them via DocuSign, and we don't ask them to sign documents through our portal. We just email them to them as a PDF file. Any questions on any of this so far?
So this is the sending. So where I got stuck was the DocuSign documents. So I just got through the EBBA because when I got it signed by you, it's not showing up in my command room. Like I can see where I can pull up the form in DocuSign and see where it's signed by both of us, but it's not showing up in my command.
It's not going to show up in command until you attach it to command. You have to do it yourself. So to attach a file in DocuSign, from DocuSign to Command, you have to go to the room and under contract or whatever, you would just click on the box and then you would select the appropriate file and there now it's attached.
Wait,
Okay, so that was my question too. So any other document that we have that we already have signed by our buyer, that is you, we for us to have it on file on the command, we have to do it ourselves manually.
Yes, you have to manually come to Command, go into the opportunity, click on whether it's a consultation or under contract, and it would only go in the under contract once you have it signed by the seller and you have an effective
Yeah,
contract.
yeah, yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't. But you would just go to DocuSign Rooms. If you wanted to download it, you can download it from the DocuSign to your computer, right? And then
Okay,
you can send
so
it in an email from there. You would upload it from your computer to your email and then send it out to the listing agent.
yes, yes, but yeah, my question is, so for me to have file of every client that I have, has to be like that. For example, I'm finished. We closed already our deal.
Hmm.
And then as for me to have all that information to have that client in file that so for me I have to do on command and do it myself like that.
Yeah, you have to go to Command, go to the opportunity, and you have to go here where it says executed contract. You have to go and
Okay,
find the contract signed by both parties and then add it to Command just like that. And then
perfect.
once you have everything filled out, you hit submit to MC, which is submit to Market Center, and they will go through and make sure you got everything filled out correctly. And if there's anything that bounces back, they'll let you know so that you can go ahead and get the corrections made.
Perfect.
Um, so there's that. Now here, right here, it says assign files from DocuSign. You can click that and you can go to my computer manual. And then when you click browse here, you can go to a folder on your computer and you could pick a document and upload that. And there you go. Now the document's added to command. You
Mm-hmm.
see that? So you can use it from your computer or from DocuSign. And if you go to DocuSign, you might have multiple rooms in your DocuSign. Right now, I just
Mm-hmm.
have the room docs, so a different folder. So in the room docs, that's where all my folders live. And you would just go in here and select the file, and you could even type in to try to narrow down the field. So as is, and there you go. Now you have your as is. And if you want to go broker relationship to closure, you could just closure. Here we go, broker disclosure, and then you can start adding them in.
Okay, perfect.
And then they also live here too. So if you click on the link, it'll show you the file, and then you can see, what you have signed and what you guys did.
So I can have a file cabinet on my command.
That's what it is basically. Command is your filing cabinet, and
Okay.
it's what imagine DocuSign as the envelope that you're sending things out to, and like that's your filing cabinet. And then when you get to command, you want to have a folder with everything nice and pretty that you're going to hand over to your boss. And you want to make sure that everything's in that folder. And then you hand that over by
Perfect.
clicking submit to MC.
Perfect.
okay, now I got it.
Yeah. Ignite will help. Jumpstart helps too. And then we have the tech guys that answer questions on their webinars that they do.
Yeah.
And we used to have a tech trainer in our office that would train the agents that got out of PC programs on how to better use DocuSign and stuff like that. But we don't have that right now. So there's a lot of floating around if you're not hopping on the webinars or not self-educating yourself on documents and DocuSigns. But I did talk to Ryan Yarborough just yesterday, and he said that he's going to come to one of our classes or a couple of our classes throughout the time, and he's going to sit down and he's going to explain some certain aspects of command to the group. He'll do like a command class for us. He'll do a DocuSign class for us to where we can really get a better understanding of how it all works. Because I sat
Yeah,
down with
because
him and
that
he was just blowing my mind with some of the command things that you can do like just by messing around with some of these different things here, like the website and all these different things. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, like he was telling me, like if you go to any listing how do you do it? You said if you go to your website, well, my website not even on here. So if I go to my website, homesales.com, and let's say I want to find a house, search properties, and we're going to do an open house, right? This was just blew my mind. I had no idea that you could even do this. Let's say we're just going to go to, want to find one that's by us. Shoot, we'll just go to the one that we were looking at. Tampa, Nebraska. There we go. Should be right here. Oh, here it is. Okay, so let's say we wanted to do an open house at Carriage Drive, right? Go to Carriage Drive and we get to this page. If you type in /open house, look what happens. Give it a second. Boom. You have a sign-in sheet right
Ooh.
there. And then when someone signs in, boom, 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 they enter their phone number, email, and all that, and they hit submit. The lead goes directly into your command as a lead, and now it's there in command, and you could just say, "Hey, thanks for coming to the open house." It's tagged for you, and there's certain ways to make it even better than this if you wanted to in your settings. And we don't know these things. I didn't know this until I had this meeting with him that you could do this. He was like, "Yeah, when they come in from your open house and they sign into your open house, you just go and you call them." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, you didn't know you can do this?" I'm like, "No, man, you crazy? Of course not."
Kids, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. These
so
young kids, I'm telling you, they are the, but this technology thing is just they are too much.
there's so much going on. So you could
Yeah.
take this, put it on a QR code, take that QR code, put it in Canva, and then create a flyer for your open house while you're there. And I'll say, please sign in, scan the QR code. And all they have to do to check in now is doot, doot. They scan the QR code, and now they're checked into your open house. So you
Ooh.
don't even have to ask them, like, hey, can you sign in for me real quick? Scan this. Or you have your iPad with you, and then you just, on the iPad, you say, hey, what's your first name, last name, email, phone number, boom, 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 and then submit, and then you submit it for them, and then now they're in, right?
Nice.
Or if you just want to take this and instead of like you have your sign-in sheet and you just want to enter them manually after you have them sign in the sign-in sheet, you could do that too. So, and it says it has little disclaimers here. By checking this box, you agree that Derek McKenzie may contact you at the telephone number, blah, 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 blah. By checking this box, you agree to our terms and services and privacy policy. So, that was very interesting. He knows all these things and he's willing to step in every once in a while to teach the group, which I think would be great. He
Yeah.
also does some classes there as well, but he knows that we're on Fridays and that every Friday we have a large group of people there. So I might have him step in every once in a while just to do a quick 30 minutes, quick hour class, or he might take up over the whole 2 o'clock class. I don't know, whatever.
Yep.
It's cool. Stuff like that
Yeah.
is very valuable.
That's very important, Derek, because
Hmm.
that is the course of our transactions. So if you know how to manage all this DocuSign and all that stuff, it will be very, very helpful. And that you share right now with in Google and the website, that is amazing, amazing.
Isn't it? Like, yeah. And there's
Yeah.
so much more to it that I'm like, crazy. So I know it's baby steps, right? So the first thing that he's going to come in and show us is how to enter all of our contacts into command and make sure that we're in our pro account. Because I know some of us are not in the pro account for some reason. I don't know why, but we need to make sure that that we're in the pro account so that I can just take a look at your transactions and take a look at your contacts and your leads so that I can help coach you to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Cool. But that's pretty much it. I know we're a little off topic here, but if there's any questions about contracts, I know we're not on contracts right now.
I do have a question, Derek.
Yeah.
Because I always hear, even when we were in the Jumpstart, they always tell us when you're specifically when it comes to the things that you have to include or exclude from what's in the listing and like you're gonna for when you're putting the offer and like there's some things that are in the contract but they're not in the listing. You exclude all of those or like how does
I
that?
mean, items like
Yeah,
appliances and
yeah, yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, right here on the listing, it said that these are the items that are being included. The built-in oven, dish
Mm-hmm.
dryer, dishwasher, ice maker, microwave. We include that
Right.
on the lines where it says things to be included.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right here, if it says that washer and dryer do not convey, there is a line item on the contract. Let's see.
Que me soplaste la cosa.
Sí, te lo conté.
Okay.
And that is right here. One second. So it's right at the top. The following
Mm-hmm.
items are excluded from the purchase. So if they don't want the washer and dryer to convey, that's where you would put that, say, washer and dryer.
Yeah, but for example, if you read like the personal property, like where it says
Mhm.
personal property, and let's say if there's no like dishwasher, do we exclude that? Like
No,
if
there's no
it's not in
dishwasher.
the
If
if
there's
it's
no
not in
dishwasher, then there's no
right,
dishwasher,
but
right? This is if
we don't necessarily have to exclude it.
no, because if there's no ceiling fans, you wouldn't say no ceiling fans are excluded because you can't exclude something that doesn't exist. So
Right.
you only
Okay.
exclude if there's something that's there that they don't want to sell to you.
Okay.
So everything but the dishwasher, like we're taking our dishwasher with us. Nobody takes their dishwasher with them, but people,
Yeah.
yeah, they might put dishwasher there, and you could say, no, we're taking our dishwasher with us. That's where you would put that if it's not conveying. So if you're listing a property, and for example, there was some lady that we were selling a property for who had these French doors,
Hmm.
like she was obsessed with these French doors, and she's like, I'm taking the French doors. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, she's like, no, we're taking the French doors. I'm like, you're gonna uninstall doors? She's like, yeah, I just bought them, blah, blah, blah. So we had to put in there excluded from the purchase is the French doors. Of course, nobody wanted to buy the house because that's just, French doors. And then
Yeah.
on top of the French doors were overpriced. And then she had this other thing that she wanted to take the chandelier and she wanted to take this and take that. And so people were kind of like, well, you're just taking the house apart and you're overpriced, you're like not doing it. So, um, but like chandelier, for example, some people want to take their chandelier, it's been in their family for generations, and they're taking it with them. You would put the chandelier here. You put curtain rods and curtains here, if they have them. But if they don't have them, this list would be infinitely long because there's a million things you could think of that are not there that you would want to exclude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
because for
Derek,
example,
if it's attached to the property, no, belongs to the property, right?
Unless you put it here.
Oh, okay.
That's what that box is for. So like, there's things such as you have a pizza oven or something like that, or a grill that's kind of like installed, or a bookshelf that's fixed to the wall that you're taking with you. There's all sorts of things like TV mounts. Like I want my TV mounts. I mean, like, I gotta go buy another TV mount. I'm taking my TV mount with me. You put that here. TV mounts go. Cameras, security systems. People pay good money for security systems. They don't want to do it all over again. They just take the security system with them. The Ring doorbell. Sometimes that's one of those issues where people like will put the Ring doorbell here on personal property included in the purchase because your buyer wants the Ring doorbell. I mean, it's really only like $300. You could go ahead and buy them a Ring doorbell for a closing gift,
Yeah.
but sometimes people want to take their Ring doorbell with them and they put that there. So you'll see certain things that don't convey that will be added to that, even if they are fixed to the wall or to the ground.
Okay. Yeah, because I
Outside, if they're not on there, then they go with the property. So if you were to say, hey, where's the handrails to the staircases? Like, oh, that's personal pro no, it's not personal property. It's fixed to the wall. We don't need to describe that the handrails go with the house.
Yeah, because that I feel like that was my only question because I always hear like the stories where it's like, oh, and they included it or something, and then they had to buy it, and it's like, what if because I was reading it and I was like, what if there's no like refrigerator, right? And then
Hmm.
I didn't exclude it, and it's there. Like,
Right.
what if I didn't exclude it, and then they're like, oh, but there's like it says that there's a refrigerator. And that was like my
No, if
only
they go to,
question.
it says,
Yeah.
unless excluded in paragraph 1A or by terms of this contract, the following items which are owned by seller and existing on the property as of the date of the initial offer are included in the purchase. So the
Mm,
words, you have to, like, that's why reading the contract is very important because
okay.
a lot of these questions are very easily answered just by reading in the contract. And it says it right there, existing on the property as of the date of the initial offer. So if it's not there, when you go look at the house and you go see there's no refrigerator there,
Yeah. Mhm.
the buyer could say, well, I want a top of the line Samsung LED, whatever. And then you would put that in additional terms. Seller agrees to
Mm,
purchase a
mhm,
refrigerator and install it, and it has to be the specific model. You can do that, right? And you can say that that has to be there. Like think of it, for example, the buyer is coming in from Canada or from Japan, and they want the house to be move-in ready. They're paying $1.5 million for the house, and there's no refrigerator in the house. Hey,
mhm,
seller, part of this deal is that you're going to go get a refrigerator installed and you're going to get these specific things installed after this date, after we get past our inspection period, after this, after that, last few days before the deal consummates, these are the additional terms. And if they agree to it, then they agree to it and they get it done.
mhm.
Right? So, um, yeah,
Cool.
we got a question for you guys. You guys have on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was it for you to fill out their offers and get that all done without my guidance, without anybody helping you? How hard was it for you?
Um, I would say it was going at like an 8
Mm,
until I couldn't figure out how to get that document uploaded into Command after getting it signed. I got
okay.
stuck there, and then it was just like, okay, at some point I need to figure out how to do that. And every time I'd open up Command, I'd pull it up and I'd be like, there's got to be an ad from DocuSign somewhere. And when I did it just now, um, when I tried to add from DocuSign, it said that this document is not available or it gave me an error. And I think that's where I was hitting my head against the wall. So I just didn't think about that workaround of downloading it to my computer and uploading it
Hmm.
from my computer. So once
Okay,
I
so
did
that
that,
worked.
now I
Okay.
have it there. So now it works.
Okay.
But
Good, good.
now I feel good about it makes sense to me. I feel good enough that um, I can sit down and do a buyer consultation or a listing consultation and at least get through the consultation. I
Hmm.
feel confident enough to fill out the paperwork and have the paperwork that I need, but I would want to get with you to have you overlook it before, like,
For sure. Yeah.
within a day.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I would prefer that you would send me your first listing agreement, your first
the package
Um,
before
yeah,
I go
the
to the
package
appointment.
before you send it to the client to sign.
Yeah.
And this is why we do this so that we can have a better understanding so that it's not crazy and marked up and all messy when you go to get it done. Um, and the biggest thing again is to read. I know that it's 12 pages of like mumbo jumbo, like what does this even mean? Like, I don't even understand. You get frustrated, but digest it, take a day, read a page.
Yeah.
page a day, in 12 days, you'll kind of understand the whole thing. Also, take the contract, put it into Gemini. We have the Gemini service. You could take it and say, hey, Gemini, please disseminate this contract. Please put this in a summary page by page, subject by subject, in a language and in a way that I can understand it. Like Jocelyn, you could say, put this in Spanish and make sure that I can understand it in Spanish
Yep.
and make it simple. Make it idiot proof, let me read this so that, when I go to explain this to my client, and I'm trying to explain how personal property works, I could explain it within 2 sentences.
Yep.
Because they say if you can't
Good
explain
to
it
know.
like if you can't explain it like to a fifth grader, then you can't explain it. You
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about unless you could put it in simple terms.
Yeah, and
So
Gemini is a good tool.
it is. It's a great tool. We have complete access as long as you're logged into your Keller Williams account. You can access it. So you would just log into Chrome, and then when you're in your Chrome, you would click on here to make sure that you're in your KW email, and then you just go to Gemini, and there you are. You're in. So I do plan on teaching Gemini classes here in the future. The issue is I don't want to take it from our Friday classes. Like our Friday classes are very useful in teaching us the importance of how to do a buyer consultation, how to do a listing consultation, how to do certain things that need to be learned. Gemini isn't a need as much as it is a supplement to our business. But you don't need Gemini. I went my whole career so far without
I'm
using
stuck on
Gemini.
that corner, get out of there.
So you don't need it, but you definitely want it when push comes to shove and you have questions. It's great to go back and forth and ask Gemini the questions. Gemini is great for answering questions, but I would always make sure that you're not solely relying on Gemini's expertise because it is just a search
A tool.
engine, a tool. So you want to make sure that you're verifying through multiple sources, not just Gemini, when it comes to a question that could get you in trouble, like a technical question. How many
Yep.
days do I have to do this? Well, Gemini might not be that great for that. But if you ask Gemini, hey, I'm looking for creative ways to reach new clients, and I'm a realtor in this area, how can I do it? And it might give you some good ideas. And so, yeah, I do plan on teaching a class for Gemini. Just finding the time to do it, so it's not interrupting the regularly scheduled program.
Yep.
Oh,
Cool.
On this Friday, don't do a lot of nice stuff because I'm not gonna be here.
Don't be nice to be mean to everyone. Shit.
Just, the review from the prior, days. Yeah.
you don't want to miss
Absolutely.
out on all the
The bare
good info.
minimum.
Exactamente,
Yeah.
because it's not the
This-
same. I can be online because I'm in Jersey, so I can be online, but it's not the
Yeah.
same. I like to be
It's
in
not
the
the same.
room,
It's not the same. In person, you get so much more involvement, but we'd love to have you on the Zoom still. This one's gonna be cold-blooded callers. So
Yeah.
Jake Yancarelli is going to be on here with us, and he's going to teach us how to do expireds for sale by owners, all of those kind of like just straight up calling people, sticking to the script, and building a business based off of just making phone calls, which he's really, really good at.
That's
So
exciting.
yeah, not my bag of tea, which is why I brought him on, but he's gonna explain it really well, answer questions, and yeah, it's gonna be good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right, I gotta get off here,
I
so-
don't want to steal the good news about Kyla, but she going tomorrow, I think, for her first listing consultation.
Oh, really? She
Nice.
is?
Yeah.
Oh, I did
She
not know
just-
that.
Yes, she just told me, and then I'm very happy for her.
Aw.
Oh, well, hopefully it's
Nice.
yeah, hopefully she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Wow, Derek didn't know about that. I feel like
I
Derek
didn't
should have
know, yeah.
known before.
It's all good.
But
I mean,
no,
you
no,
know,
she wrote me. She said I went for my first listing appointment yesterday.
Oh,
oh, she already went.
Yeah,
Okay, well, hopefully she has a
yeah.
firm grasp on this. I mean, she might have taken all the classes and then knows what she's doing. So I got some people
Let's
that come
see.
in and they're just like, hey, I'm on my third deal. Or like I just did this and they handed it over to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what you're doing. Cool.
Exactly.
There might be a few things here or there we need, and I have somebody that comes over and I'm like, whoa, we need to talk. Yeah, yeah, you definitely are not gonna be doing this deal. We need to talk.
Yeah.
So, again, it's a learning experience as we get better, you know, like I like this one saying I heard the other day, um, everything that you miss is not a failure. Think of it more as a calibration
Yep.
to your system. So you made a mistake, there was a misfire. Okay, well, instead of just not doing anything and saying, okay, well, I made a mistake, I'm never going to do anything again, just say, okay, well, I know not what I'm supposed to be doing here, so we're not going to do that again. Let's try again. Another test run, boom. Another test
Yep.
run, boom. Thomas Edison, 1,000 times before he figured out how to make the light bulb. But each time he documented and learned from every mistake until he got it right.
Yep.
So don't be afraid just because you make a mistake or you misspeak or you say something wrong in a conversation. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just on to the next. Again, there's 6 billion people on the planet. You can't do business with all of them. So if somebody says
Yep.
no or somebody says, "Oh, I didn't like that agent, I'm not going to work with them." Okay, fine. Next person,
Yep.
just get better. Hmm.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm going to make some pork chops, some tostones, rice, and some
Yes.
chimichurri sauce. So,
Chimichurri sounds good.
pleasure to be with you, but you know what I mean?
Yep, I gotta go too. I'm starving.
too.
Bye,
Okay,
Dominic.
guys.
Bye,
All
guys.
right, see you on Friday.
See you Friday,
See
guys.
ya.
Okay, bye.